stream for the longest time, and now suddenly it's live. Welcome, guys. What am I doing today? I am stitching in a bag pocket. So this is going to be going inside a bag. This is a gusseted pocket. So that goes on the inside there with the reinforced back. So I was stitching this and I thought, why don't I go live and say hi to everybody? I haven't been live on YouTube for a while, so why not go live? I have a bit of a question, actually, if you could answer in the comments below, it would be really helpful to me. I know YouTube is primarily a horizontal video format, and the lives by default go in vertical, filmed on a phone. What do you prefer? Do you prefer the vertical format, or do you prefer the horizontal format? I'd actually really like to know, so if you could let me know in the comments below. And if you are watching this after the fact, if you want to catch my live so you can ask questions, don't forget to turn on your notifications. I get a few people asking me, I keep missing your lives, how can I find out? Notifications, make sure they're switched on. Right, I'm going to tap the screen just to make sure that's okay. And feel free, if you guys want to ask questions as I'm stitching, that's absolutely fine. What I'm going to do is just lower that camera slightly so you can see what I'm doing more so than my face, which is probably not why you're here. So using a blunt awl here, going through, because obviously nylon reinforcement, which I use for pockets, is a woven material, unlike leather. So you don't really want to penetrate with an awl if you can, because you're severing the fibers which you're needing for strength. Whereas an awl that's round just kind of pushes them aside, so it maintains that strength which you want really. Actually, I haven't stitched in these clams for such a long time. These were my first ever clams. I made these from scrap wood on my bandsaw. Just lengths of plywood, 1/2-inch ply. I've got to remember how to actually see comments on here. I think you've got to tap the screen or something like that. Normally I'm going live on Instagram, which I find a little bit more intuitive. But I'm getting used to the YouTube lives. So the color on this is a color I haven't used before. This is kind of like a lavender or a lilac, which it's grown on me. I really like the color. I don't know if you guys can actually see that. It just looks kind of white, to be honest. But if I take the color and put it against something that is actually white, you can kind of see against this pattern card, slight light blue with a tint of purple in there, just a tint, which is quite nice. Looking at the screen, it doesn't look like it's picking up it's not really doing the color justice. That's okay. It's all well and good. So this pocket is going to be going directly onto the lining, which is what I'm stitching it to now, and it will be going onto a top frame bag. And for all of you that don't know, I've been filming courses on how to make handles, how to make frames, metal frames for handbags. And in this final course, I'm actually teaching how to finish and complete a top frame bag. And it's a small bag based on a doctor's bag with a top frame that opens out. And it can be used the design can be used as a handbag, a small handbag. Or alternatively, it could be used as like a dop kit, like a very extravagant, luxurious dop kit, aka toiletry bag, to keep all your toiletry items nice and safe in something that looks rather sophisticated. So, oops, slip there. Good afternoon, everyone from Bansfield Leatherworks in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Always wanted to go to Florida. Got some amazing diving out there. I've just recently got into diving. doing my certification. And Florida is definitely on my radar. Thanks for saying hello. For the rest of you, if you want to say hi, let me know where in the world you're from. If you're doing any projects at the moment, maybe you're involved in a project and you're taking a break, or you're stitching alongside with me, or you're working on something during the day, let me know what you're up to. I'm always interested to see where people are from and what they're doing. Always blows my mind how huge this community actually is of leatherworkers around the world. Oh, I have come off my thread. Where's my wax? Where's my wax? There it is. Oh, furthest possible point away. Just going to re-wax that. Don't know how that's come off. It doesn't even look like it's come off. Anyway. Right. Okay. It seems I can only actually see comments when someone comments, and then it's only for a few seconds and then it disappears. I'm not sure why that is, or if there's a setting that keeps comments up there permanently. But if I do miss your comment, apologies guys, I'm going to give this an extra lock on there. That with the wax should help things considerably. Oh, there we are. I might suggest waiting till November. Howdy from Texas. Howdy from Texas. See, it disappeared and I couldn't even, didn't even get a chance to see it. That's frustrating. I'll have to research that, see how to do it. As soon as someone comments, all the comments come up and then they stay there for a few seconds. And they Kaiser Soze, just disappear. Suppose I'll have to keep looking up. Evening, Phil. Good evening. This is about as much as I could read. So coming up to the second corner, so what I'm actually stitching right now is the base of the pocket. And I'll show you guys again, for all those who are joining in, let me just navigate this corner and then I will show you again what I'm working on. So it's a gusseted pocket with a single outside seam. So sometimes on the folded corner of the gusset, you'll actually prick mark and stitch those in. I prefer not to, personally. I prefer just a folded gusset, which I'll show you in a second. I'm paranoid now, I keep looking up. I've matched the thread to the surface as well. So it's a really light purple thread with this lilac or lavender goat skin. So going through 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of leather on this corner because it's a fold. Ah, the Peak District, a beautiful place. Went there once. Did a tour of all the national parks in England and some in Scotland. And yeah, Peak District is beautiful, beautiful country. Yeah, so this is the pocket that I'm stitching at the moment. Okay, so it's a gusseted pocket, so it actually kind of like accordions out, so it allows you to put more things in there. It's a small bag, so it's not going to be a large pocket, so this would be for like keys and small items, things like that. And you can see it's a fold along this edge. You can actually mark a line across there, prick mark it, and then stitch through and get like a stitch here and a stitch there. Personally, I prefer to make it and then I hot crease it on the opposite side to get that nice, clean, crisp fold. And I find it gives a bit more space because if you do stitch those ends, it tightens things in considerably. So I like to leave it loose. That's just personal preference. All right, I'm going to put that in here. And of course, all this will be in the course. So for you guys who are members of the Leathercraft Masterclass and you partake of the online video courses, you will obviously get to see this in full detail. So what I'm doing now is just stitching this through so that we don't have a stitch sticking on the outside. So a little bit complicated on this part, but once we've navigated through, we'll be fine. And we're through. So let's give that a nice tight tug, cinch everything in. Perfect, a little bit tighter. There it is. Hello from Tunisia. Hello. Hello from the UK, unless you guys haven't detected the accent. It is 5 minutes to 10 at night. So we're working late today. It's been a busy one. So trying to make up time. So stitching in the third part of the gusset now. The third part of the pocket up the final gusset. Lift this a little bit higher actually. Give me a bit more room there. Ah, there it is. You don't press the screen, you press and pull, and then all the comments come up. Nicholas says, learned a great deal from your courses. Thank you. Oh, you're very welcome, Nicholas. Thank you for saying that. Appreciate it. So this is a goat skin from Italy. This is Tuscan goat skin. It's quite a pronounced grain on this, which I like. I do like a really fine grain for certain things, but sometimes a bit of a pronounced grain on goat, because it does have a rather nice grain to it. So sometimes when they are polished out and pressed out, you do kind of lose that character. And I do like a bit of character. So I'd show you what I'm actually making at the moment, but it's all over there with some edge paint drying. Just a quick check. Robert says, evening, good evening. Howdy from Texas, making random items for neighbors. You're a very good neighbor. Very good neighbor. Never gone to Texas, always wanted to. Always wanted to go. Mainly for the barbecue. I've heard a lot about you guys having good barbecue, and I do appreciate a good barbecue, so that's probably one of the key motivators. So stitching this at 3 millimeters with 0.5 millimeter thread, so 0.5 millimeters. So not overly fine, but not chunky either. It's a small bag, so you probably could get away with 3.85. No, 3.38. I'd say that's probably the biggest. 3.85 would be a bit large, I think. Difficult one to stitch because I've got the small gusset in the way, and because the whole assembly is made from a softer leather, it does move around as you stitch, but we're getting through it. It's the main thing, right? Barbed Wire Leather Studios. Cheers from Utah in the USA. Thank you for clarifying where Utah is. Whereabouts in Utah? Salt Lake City is that the capital of Utah, I guess? Don't know much about it. I know that's where a lot of the land speed records happen. On the salt flats. Right, reposition that gusset just to give it a little bit more stiffness in there. Just a little bit, just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, Salt Lake City. Working on the luxury handbag as we speak, says David Dunn. Ah, which luxury handbag? Are you talking about the Turenne, or are you talking about something else? Perhaps your own design, or? I did a post on Instagram today, guys, a student success post. A few students, some recently, some not so recently, who have made the attaché case from the attaché case course. Some amazing work by the students there. And there's also a little video preview about the course if you're interested in kind of seeing what's inside it, what it includes, things like that. But that's a recent post on Instagram. And if you only follow me on YouTube, check out my Instagram, because that's where a lot of content I put out, informational content, announcements about courses, blogs, all sorts of things. That's where all that goes. So don't forget to follow me on there if you want a lot more content. It's also a place you can DM me if you have any questions as well, unless you want to email me. Give me a second. Ah, the Turenne. You are making the Turenne in ostrich, no less. In ostrich. That's so cool. What color have you gone for? Have you gone for the tan, or have you chosen to go with a different color? That was a really popular course. I think more people have made that than any other single product. Perhaps even some of the smaller items like the card holders. It's surprising how many people have actually gone on and made that, which has blown my mind. I think that has actually been, by some margin, I think, the most successful course to date. For all of you that don't know, the Turenne Luxury Handbag was a course I created on how to make handbags, and that was ostrich skin in tan with a baby calf interior, which was in turquoise. I think turquoise and brown, or turquoise and tan, is one of my favorite combinations. It's such a classic. All right, so we've reached the end now. I'm just going to allow these needles or the thread to relax and unravel. And then I'm going to backstitch cognac with royal blue interior. Gotta love a bit of cognac. Gotta love a bit of cognac. Royal blue, that would be nice. Strange how the blues really do work with browns and tans. It's one of those things you wouldn't have thought it does, and then you put them together and you're like, okay, yeah, no, that does work really well. And one more. Last stitch in there. So I'm having 3 back stitches on here. I do like a more secure pocket if possible. Wrapping that thread a couple of times, lock that in place. Pull that through, thread neatly side by side. Pulling through that knot a little bit more into the center. And there we have it. Lovely. And I'll tuck that in a little bit and tap down the stitches, but in the meantime, I'll kind of show you guys what I've been up to there. Ron says, I like to drink it. I've completely lost context of what that might be about. Last thing we were talking about was handbags. My fish memory does not allow me to go that far back. Apologies. So yeah, so Yeah, not too bad. So that's the rear. So this is like a nylon reinforcement, so the stitches over time don't kind of pull through on the leather, which can happen. Usually after a few years of use, especially if it's rough use and the leather isn't particularly thick, and you don't want really thick leather on the lining on the inside here. So always reinforce the rear side on something like this, so that as you're putting things inside and taking them out, obviously you have forces pulling apart, so it's going to be stressing the stitches. And as leather ages, especially on thin linings like that, you want to make sure that you don't put them under too much stress. So taking a look on the inside there, let me just open it up for you. That's what it looks like on the inside. And of course, this is doubled over, so it's actually a turned edge at the top. So that's not a cut edge here, that's literally rolled. So it's a thin piece of leather folded over on itself, and then the shape of the gusset is added into it, and then it's all cut out. So that is going to be going on the inside of the top frame handbag. So it's a small little pocket, just to make it a little bit more practical. It's a small bag, so you want to make sure that you've got things in there that are practical. It's going to be coming with a shoulder strap as well, for those of you that want to use it as a handbag, or for those of you that want to use it as a dop kit. That'd be a great place to store spare razors and things like that in there. Just a quick... do you not burn the stitches to secure them? If I was using polyester thread, for example, then I would burn the stitches, or I'd melt the stitches at the end and then flatten them out from the rear side there. On this, I'm using natural thread, linen thread, so they'll be trimmed, they'll be tucked, and just a little touch of glue on the rear side just seals them in to make sure they don't go anywhere. So if you're using a natural thread, obviously natural thread will just literally combust, it will burn, so it won't melt and allow you to flatten it out, so you have to choose an alternative to that. But yeah, if I was using polyester or say nylon, which I don't use anyway, but if I was using a synthetic, then absolutely I'll be melting that in to make sure it's nice and secure. All right, just double checking that I haven't missed any comments. Do you find some thread companies have better matches for some leather companies? So I guess what you're, touching the microphone, I guess what you're talking about there is, are there thread companies that produce thread for Leathercraft that have the same color palettes as leather itself, other leather companies and tanneries? Not that I'm aware of. The best thing you probably want to do is to make sure that whatever company that you go for, I use Chinois, go for a company that has a broad selection. So if you've got purples, there's lots of purples to choose from. If you're going for oranges or reds or greens or whatever, there's lots to choose from. And there's some more unusual colors, you know, like lilac, for example, or chartreuse, something like that, more obscure colors. But it's, you know, if you're a shade or two off, when you stitch, it doesn't matter too much. And if you can, go a shade darker in your thread, because it tends to lighten very slightly with the wax in there as you pull the stitches in, and then it kind of matches at that point. So that would be my advice. So just go for a company that produces thread that has a little bit more of a broad spectrum of colors to choose from, and that should give you the upper hand. If you go for a thread company, I don't know, Carriage Thread or something by Tandy, comes to mind, they don't have the broadest selection of colors, it's mainly the basic colors, for example, then you're going to have a little bit more of a tough time trying to match. So just choose a company with the biggest selection of a thread that you trust, a thread that you like, and that you have good success stitching with, and you should be okay from there. All right, good. Just making sure I'm not missing any questions there. David Dunn says, I've found that Chinois has the most robust color palette. I do agree. Some people love Chinois, some people don't like Chinois. It really depends. It's more of a personal preference, but what is undeniable is their color palette selection. I mean, if you go on, say, Sarjou, which is a shop in Paris, one of the main reasons that Chinois, which is a 200-year-old company, has come back to life. This thread has been recreated. and I think it's made in Lille. It's like from 200 years ago, and they still use a lot of the same equipment. But anyway, if you go on, I digress, Sajou, Sajou, go on their website, sajou.fr, you'll see the entire color selection, and it's huge, absolutely massive. And I think that's one of the main reasons that I really like it. Nicholas says, excellent tip. And we have somebody, Kayas from Seattle. Hello. Good coffee, I hear. And Fraser, that's basically what I know Seattle for. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget to give this a like if you enjoyed it. And remember, I asked a question earlier, which was, do you prefer the vertical format in these live videos or the standard horizontal format? I filmed the last one in horizontal. I'm filming this in vertical. So if you let me know in the comments below what you prefer, just so that I know, and then, you know, just whatever people want, I will produce. But thank you very much. And in the meantime, don't forget to head to leathercraftmasterclass.com, where you'll see a pop-up. And if you put your email in there, you'll get a free tool guide at the moment with a full selection of tools that I recommend that you have in your leather workshop, and also a guide on, which is a video guide on how to select the perfect leathers for you. So don't forget to go on there, leathercraftmasterclass.com, and I will see you there. Cheers, guys. Take it easy.